And I tell people today, young people, I tell them, I say, I realized I picked up on 3 key words in my life that I live by to succeed. And one is commitment. You've got to have a commitment. If you don't, it ain't going to happen. Number 2, you better be prepared. You better know your topic. You better know your product. You better know your subject.
Welcome to Corporate Warrior, the podcast that brings you the best advice on how to improve your health, optimize performance, and maximize productivity. With your host, Lawrence Neal.
This podcast is brought to you by HitUni.com. HitUni.com are a provider of amazing online courses for high-intensity training qualifications. HitUni comes highly recommended by the best in the field, including Body by Science co-author Dr. Doug McGuff, Discover Strength CEO Luke Carlson, and trainer and founder of Bay.com, Drew Bay. It was founded by my friend, author, and longtime personal trainer Simon Shawcross, who's also been a guest on the podcast. Simon has 15 years experience training clients and has supervised over 15,000 high-intensity training workouts. Using knowledge from experts like Skylar Tanner, Dr. James Steele, Dr. Ellington Darden, HitUni is a goldmine for learning everything to do with high-intensity training. The courses are delivered online through the website, where you can learn via a variety of multimedia materials at your own pace. There's online support and a discussion forum where you can share ideas and ask for help. To learn more about high-intensity training and improve my own results, I started their personal trainer course. The content is amazing, the courses are really easy to follow, and each section is organized into bite-sized chunks that give you a real sense of achievement after you complete each one. I should also mention there is a DIY course. So this is the course for you if you're not necessarily a personal trainer, but you want to learn more about high-intensity training and how to implement it for maximum benefit in your own exercise regime. To get your exclusive Corporate Warrior 10% discount on any course you purchase, simply head on over to hituni.com, that's HITUNI.com, and enter the coupon code CW10, that's CW and the number 10. So again, head on over to hituni.com, pick your course, and enter the coupon code CW10 for 10% discount. Thank you for your support. This episode is brought to you by ARX, the most innovative, efficient, and effective all-in-one exercise machines I've ever seen. I was really impressed with my ARX workout. The intensity and adaptive resistance was unlike anything I've ever experienced. I love how the machine enables you to increase the negative load to fatigue target muscles more quickly, and I love how the workouts are effortlessly quantified. The software tracks maximum force output, rate of work, total amount of work done, and more in front of you on screen, allowing you to compete with your previous performance to give you and your clients real-time motivation. The ARX uses a computer-controlled motor to give you the exact amount of resistance your clients need 100% of the time. This means that the resistance can never become dangerous, is intuitive and simple to use, and can provide you with all of the results you and your clients are looking for in a fraction of the time. ARX is highly effective and efficient in delivering all of the benefits of exercise, including increased strength, muscle mass, cardiovascular conditioning, bone mineral density, and injury recovery. As well as being utilized by many high-intensity training trainers to deliver highly effective and efficient workouts to their clients, ARX comes highly recommended by world-class trainers and brands, including Bulletproof, Tony Robbins, and Ben Greenfield Fitness. To find out more about ARX and how you can get $1,000 off software licensing when you place an order, that's right guys, $1,000 off, please go to arxfit.com and mention Corporate Warrior in the How Did You Hear About Us field. So again, to get $1,000 off software licensing when you order, head on over to arxfit.com and enter Corporate Warrior in the How Did You Hear About Us field. Hey guys, I am Lawrence Neal and welcome to another episode of Corporate Warrior, the podcast that teaches you how to optimize your health, exercise, business, and lifestyle productivity. My former guests include people like paleo pioneers Mark Sisson and Rob Wolf, high-intensity training experts like Dr. Doug McGuff and Drew Bay, through to successful entrepreneurs like David Allen, Noah Kagan, and many, many more. My next guest is the legendary Jim Flanagan. Jim was exercise pioneer Arthur Jones's right-hand man for 36 years, working for both MedX and Nautilus, which Jim was instrumental in the launching of both companies and the spread of high-intensity strength training worldwide. In April 2017, Jim was inducted into the National Fitness Hall of Fame. And Jim continues to share his unique experiences with Arthur Jones and enjoys providing in-depth insight on the application of high-intensity strength training during a quarterly 2-day in-depth hands-on program in Orlando, Florida, which is called the Real Hit Experience, which he runs alongside his partner, Luke Carlson. And you can find out all about that event at therealhit.com. That's therealhit.com. This interview was a real treat. I've been looking forward to speaking with Jim for a very long time. And in this episode, we focused mostly on Jim's relationship with Arthur Jones and the rise of Nautilus and Med-X. Jim is an absolute master storyteller, and he tells many tales of Arthur that are both captivating and in some cases absolutely hilarious. The story of how Arthur mentored Jim is very special indeed and inspiring. After you listen to this, I guarantee that if you don't already, you'll be seeking out your own mentor. For all the show notes and links for this episode and all episodes, please go to corporatewarrior.org. Don't forget to hang around till the end for your free gift. And now I give you the one and only Jim Flanagan. Jim, welcome to Corporate Warrior. It's a pleasure having you on the show.
Well, I appreciate you taking time to invite me. I'm glad to be here.
You're most welcome. I just want to really give some context to those that don't know about your background as much, just to begin with. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into strength training, how that all started?
Well, it goes back to about 1960, at age 14, trying to improve a little bit. You pick up a muscle magazine called Strength and Health, which Bob Hoffman owned, and York Barbell. And you read it and you believe it. And that's all you had at the time. There were 3 different groups. You had Bob Hoffman, Joe Weider with Muscle Builder, Muscle Power, Muscle Fitness later on, a conglomerate of magazines and publishing in the physical culture area. And there was no structure. In fact, we were not allowed to lift weights in our era as an athlete. Because of the misbelief of muscle bound and losing your skill set and slowing you down, when in fact it's the exact opposite. But we didn't know that. We did what we were told to do. And never had any formal training, so got a set of weights like most young boys, believed in the Charles Atlas course. And nothing happened really because we didn't know what we were doing. But along the way, I figured out that I wanted to be a physical educator. I wanted to go back to college. It took a while to get through. That's a whole nother story. But I had to pay my way through school, digging a lot of ditches, repossessing a lot of furniture, and repossessing cars for a living. So that got me to look at going into a gym. And that's where I met Henry Milo Steinborn. And if you know anything about his background, he was a survivor of World War I, held in a internment camp in Australia, because he was German, and he worked out, built his own equipment, his weights, and became a very strong, powerful man, and came to the USA in about 1919 at the end of World War I as a stowaway. And Milo was on the professional wrestling circuit, was a vaudeville strength performer, so he performed strength feats as well as professionally wrestling. In Orlando, he came down here in 1953 from the Northeast and was the Central Florida wrestling promoter for professional wrestling. In 1960, he opened his gym up called Milo's Gym, and he had a wrestling ring, and all the guys, the pro wrestlers, were there as members training. And in 1968, I decided to walk in there and sign up at $10 a month, no contract, pretty intimidating, and I was a little fearful. At that time, I was 6'5", 190 pounds of all hands and feet, no meat. So, and it was an experience. So, Milo and his son Dick Steinborn, who was at that time a Southeast professional champion and was around the world wrestling and very well known, and another gentleman named Mr. Sutton, his nickname was Oop, O-O-P, Oop Sutton, took me under their wing and guided me, and I trained 3 days a week, ate regular food, believed what I was reading in the magazines, but I did, I thought, a hard workout. And at that time, it was hard because I'd never done anything like that. And 1 year later, I'm 50 pounds heavier, 240. And so it worked. So that's how I got into it. I got motivated. was working on my Associate of Arts 2-year degree and then transferred into the University of Central Florida, which is a big name now in the athletic and academic world. They're probably the largest enrolled college now, surpassing Arizona State in enrollment right here in Orlando, Florida. So I didn't have to leave. Continued working out, walked on, made the basketball team. They had 3 varsity sports: basketball, wrestling, and baseball. In fact, the wrestling coach saw me walking on campus and tried to get me to quit basketball. So I can make you a wrestling champion. I didn't know what that was. So things were the journey kind of took its course, and I wanted to coach a sport. I was passionate about helping kids and working out and discipline, and it helped me. And I thought I knew what I was doing. So at the end of basketball season, I made the team, by the way, and started. And I was the only guy that lifted weights. Nobody lifted weights back then. Nobody. And that's a whole other ballgame. But it got me to that level. And it was a small program starting out, and at the end of basketball season, I got right back into the gym at Milo's. $10 a month, no contract. I didn't miss a beat. Couldn't wait. I even worked out during the season. Nobody knew it, in my garage. Well, I read this article in Iron Man magazine owned by Perry and Mabel Rader. And it had the cover was of Arnold Schwarzenegger. But the article was Distance, Resistance, and Speed by Arthur Jones. And I read the article. I go, I've never heard this before, ever. This is unbelievable information. And I didn't know who this guy was or where he was, but come to find out, one of the gym members had already been up to DeLand, Florida, and met him and saw the equipment in DeLand High School, 33 miles away from where I lived. So my training partner, who at the time was an architect, a little older than me, I taught his daughter a year or two later at school, my first teaching job. We decided to go meet Arthur Jones on a weeknight. And that night, in late March of 71, my world changed overnight. And I was mesmerized. And I went up there, shook his hand, and never said a word. It was a monologue. He was holding court. In fact, a former Mr. America, the middle 50s, Steve Klasanen, was there. He was a professional bodybuilder at one time, won the amateur Mr. America. I don't know if he ever competed much after that, but was a lifter and a competitive bodybuilder. Met him. And that changed my direction of where I was going to go in my career. And it was an interesting change. I read the article, didn't understand it, read it over and over and over, but it made sense. And because of the distance, geographically, I was close by. So every time I had a free moment, I would go up there and hang around on my own time just to be around, because people were coming in and out. I mean, the top football coaches, the big names, the things were evolving, and I wanted to be part of it. So that's how I got started into it, and I got my 2-year degree. We did 2 internships for a physical education degree with 25 hours of exercise physiology, 5-hour blocks. And we did a junior internship and a senior internship. That was the first time in college in education that they did 2 internships. So I was going to coach a sport, I thought. I graduated in December, went 2 summer schools straight through, had to get out, and broke. So I got a teaching job in Orange County, and the only job available was at the elementary physical education level. So I took it because I had to have a job. But they were kind of smart because they were limited in their budget, so I had to rotate 1 week at one school, one at another school. So I took it and did the work at 2 schools for the salary of one person, so double the load factor. But I thought, well, I got a negative here. I'm not making much money, but I got to have a job, but I'm doing double the load factor. But I'm going to go to graduate school. I can't coach a sport, so I'll go to graduate classes. So I started pursuing that at night. And every time I had a free moment, I drove up to Lake Helen, Florida, just to hang around like a sponge. And by the way, I didn't say this, but the first night I met Arthur Jones, he actually wrote out a routine on paper, which I don't have anymore. I wish I'd kept it, of how we could increase the intensity of effort with barbells and dumbbells. And we went back to the gym and applied those principles of pre-exhaustion, like doing a set of arm flies and then go right to the bench on the same, within 3 or 4 seconds. And we couldn't finish the workout. And we do a set of squats of 15 to 20 reps, full squats, which nobody really did before. However, having said that, Milo Steinborn, if he walked in and saw you squat just a parallel, he'd run you out of the gym. You had to go down to the floor. He knew how to squat. He was a world-class squatter, as you may know if you've done your research in history. So there was a certain level of discipline in the gym. But most by and large, most guys, it was kind of a culture of bonding, of guys hanging out and having breakfast in the morning before the workout, or a lunch after the workout. So that was that culture. But I didn't know any different. So then I meet Arthur Jones, and we start listening to him lecture and some of his examples. You go, golly, something's different. So after about 4 or 5 months, he allowed us to come up to the Kwanzaa hut at DeLand High School, where he had worked a deal with the athletic director, which today you could never do again. But that time, he told the athletic director every machine he designs, he would put there for free, and he gave those to Bill Bradford, the former football coach. And he started a weightlifting team, a varsity sport, to compete at Florida at the varsity level. But the rules were, we trained to build strength on my equipment, and you practice the skill of the barbell, and you compete. And Bill Bradford, if he leaves, he gets to keep the machines. They're in his name. And the athletic director allowed that because he said all your athletes, male, female, can have access to the equipment. So they had probably the best facility in the country at that time in the early 70s. And Bill Bradford, you may know who he is. He's passed on, and he was just a great guy, great for the kids. Bill Bradford left football, had a bad season, and then started that weightlifting team and became very successful, won over, I think, 226 meets in a row with no defeats. That says a lot right there. So anyway, that's how I got started into it and got motivated. And I came from a different perspective. My training partner, George Tuttle, we drove to Lake Helen for 9 months, 2 days a week on Mondays and Fridays, and used the first basic set of machines. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. And we didn't have all the machines. Arthur hadn't designed them all yet. This is like 72, a year after I met him. So he came to me and he said, look, I will buy 5 Nautilus machines if you put them in your downstairs garage apartment. I said, wow, you do that? We can have our own makeshift gym. And we did that in the early summer of 72. We put in a plate loading pullover, a leg extension, a row machine, a bicep and tricep, and a torso arm. And I put a squat rack in, a deadlift, and a dip and chin bar. And we started with no heat, no air conditioning. And I started training young athletes from Boone High School, where I did my internship, for free. Little did I know, but I was just trying to help kids because I wanted to teach and coach. And that's how I got started. So I came from a different perspective. I was basically as a customer first in 1972. I stayed in teaching a year and a half, started working on, as I said earlier, my master's degree. And then I decided to leave teaching. And I won't go into details on that. I saw things changing, and I thought, you know what? I'm so excited about this technology. I'm going to raise money and open my own gym up. I raised the money and opened a Nautilus Fitness Center of mine personally. Of course, we were given the name, which was a marketing tool. Yeah. And opened November 1st, 1973. That's the worst time to ever open a gym or open up a fitness business is during the holidays. Don't ever do that. But I didn't know back then. So it's trial and error. Learn by lessons of life.
Was it crickets at the beginning? Was it quiet? Was it quiet at the beginning?
Well, it wasn't because I had such a contact with the coaches in the community because of my phys ed background, and I knew everybody. I had to look at I had to look at my cash flow account. I had enough money to pay the bills for 6 months. If I sold no memberships, at the end of 6 months, I'm out of business. So I was undercapitalized. I was passionate. Now, passion can overcome a lot, but sometimes you have to look at reality. So what I did, I gave every football coach a free membership. I let them come in. But I wanted their kids. And I sold a 3-month $75 membership with a conversion factor within 30 days. That's taken off the balance of a 1-year membership. and I sold a ton of them. So I had to get into Mach 2 to build my cash flow up. And I did that basically on the athletes. Those programs could, they play sports, so some of them can't go year round yet, but this will help them get that year, and you can freeze it, which I did. I worked with the kids to help them out on that side of the ball game. And then all of a sudden, I had the adult population. And that the reason I was successful was the work ethic over here and getting it done, selling the short-term memberships, but then national promotion, the Nautilus name was getting all kinds of exposure in mass media. That's which Arthur Jones was very, very intelligent in his methodologies of how he marketed. People, the experts will criticize him, but he pulled it off. And that drove a lot of people to the gym.
What did he do specifically to market Nautilus successfully?
Well, if you go back and review, which you can go online, John Turner has done an exceptional job in Canada, one of our customers and a dear friend and colleague, of taking everything Arthur Jones ever wrote and putting on the internet for free. And you go back and analyze the advertisements in the Athletic Journal magazines, the Ironman magazines, there was copy with information to stimulate you, to trigger you to look at it and to learn and be taught. And that was to me, that was a stroke of genius, because I read everything he put out there over and over and over.
Yeah.
So
his marketing got your attention at the beginning.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Yeah, that one article got my attention. It was a great article, and it's something you never heard before. So that's how I got into it. And I had the gym for 14 years. And then along the way, every time I had a free hour or a couple hours, I'd drive up to Lake Helen and hang around. And then Arthur, he was building his business, and I guess he could tell I was enthused, I was motivated, and I was passionate. And he called me up a few times and wanted to know if I could help him. Can I go to Dallas, Texas, or go to Atlanta, help him out? And I went with him on his plane privately, and I helped out at the booth, started talking to prospective customers. So I'm getting on-the-job training. Didn't realize at the time, not getting paid, but I was investing my time learning, and I never turned him down. And I went every time he called me, I went, and I had to cover my gym, which I did. But that basically over here, you're giving up over here to gain over here, and that's how I worked my way into it. And I was very very blessed. And so what happened was. Coach Shula and I became good friends. I went down, delivered about 15 machines to him on a truck in the middle of a camp, in the middle of an evening. And I'd been on a plane with he and his family several times. He was actually a spokesperson, one of several speakers and endorsement type relationships with Arthur Jones and the athletic side. And, of course, a legend coach who was just one of the best of all time. And Arthur called up one day and said, there's an opportunity. Coach Shula may take a distribution side. He has an option at the end of his 3-year contract. Would you be interested in working for him? And I go, golly, I'd be honored. And I met with Coach Shula at a preseason football game in his room at the Sheraton Hotel in Clearwater, Florida, when they were playing the Bucks, and had a great 2-hour meeting, and basically had a verbal agreement. If he was to take the territory, I'd be the guy possibly. So that was a great deal. And then apparently his accounting people, CPA, he went someplace else, and we remained friends till for years and years. And Arthur, as a result of that, said, "Look, if you get a lead, register the lead with the home office, and I'll pay you this commission rate." Well, I had been training a gentleman that was a senior vice president of a big retail store, and he got transferred to Orlando, and walked into my gym one day and introduced himself and said, I'm a mountain climber. As a hobby, I climb mountains, and I just failed on Mount McKinley, but I've heard about your gym and your equipment, and I've heard this Nautilus equipment. Would you take me as a member? I said, absolutely. And I actually trained this guy for the next 9 months. He was 56 years old. He and his wife enrolled for a year apiece, family membership, and I had him for that 9 months, and he went back and beat the mountain, which says a lot at 57 years of age.
It does.
Well, he transferred to Sarasota unexpectedly, and I didn't know it, and he left. And So I had the conversation with Arthur about selling the equipment on a part-time basis, registered leads. And this guy calls me 3 days later and wants me to come over to Sarasota and talk with him. He wants to look at putting a gym in Sarasota so he has the place to work out. So I go over there and passionately go spend the night with him, go to dinner, answer all his questions. The man gives me a deposit for half of about $70,000 without a quote. I go, wow. So I hand delivered that check. Now, Arthur Jones never said a word, never even blinked, never thanked me, which that's normal, you know. But having said that, we got the quote done and got the machines delivered. He opened up. I even found a football coach who went to work for him. And the rest is history on that. And I started selling equipment. Then a week later, I get a call from a high school coach who's a member of my gym. His brother-in-law is a head coach up in Palatka, Florida, near Green Cove Springs. They needed a speaker to speak to the Booster Club. I put literature in the car, drove up there on a Tuesday night, got a PO for $22,000. So I'm on a roll selling equipment part-time away from my gym, in my gym. I'm thinking, this is great. So I called Arthur Jones up one day and wanted to know if I could meet with him, and he wanted to know what about. And I told him, he said, well, be here on Tuesday at 11 o'clock in the morning. Arthur was a very complicated individual, but very fair. If there's to me, he was black or white. There was no gray area. You knew where you stood with him at all times. And I had great respect, great admiration, because we're young, you know, we're in our youth looking for things. And there was definitely I hate to use the word father figure, but a mentor, a guy who could motivate you. He knew how to hit the right buttons. And he did. Okay. So, and I'm saying that in a nice way, by the way. And I meet him at 11 o'clock in the morning in his office, but he never showed up till 1 o'clock. 2 hours late, and he looked like he was worn out. He apologized. His hair was sticking straight up. He was exhausted. And I'll never forget that he said, look, I apologize. I've been up all night. We're finishing up a instructional film with Dick Butkus. You know who he is, the former famous linebacker for the Chicago Bears, who was on staff. He was an employee now, not a spokesperson. And he said, I'll get with you when I can. And so I kind of started figuring things out. I never said a word about it, but there was a series of litmus tests that I was given along the way, as were a lot of people. He would test you to see certain things about you. He knew I was going to help him out anytime he wanted help, because I always volunteered. I never turned him down. I always went every time he called me. I was passionate. I loved it. It's just, you look back and reflect, you go, God, did we really do all this? So he says, come in the studio. We got to finish this film up. We got to wrap it up. We're behind schedule, and I'll get with you when I can. So I go in the studio, and I'm there all day long. Now, I'm going to ask you, what time do you think he got wrapped? What time do you think he got through the film? 11 p.m. 12 hours later.
Wow.
Well, most people would have quit. Most people would have gone off. Now, people have told me, why'd you wait around? Because I'll tell you why I waited around, because I wanted to get involved. I was going after something. So we wrapped up the film. He goes, are you hungry? And I said, yeah, I'm starving. I hadn't eaten all day. You like quail? Arthur, I like quail. Sure. He says, well, my old reptile buddies from Slidell, Houston Perry and his wife, Katie, they're standing one of my trailers in the back, and she's frying some quail. Let's go eat. So we sit outside till about 1 a.m. He's eating quail. He stays up all night. So now we go to his apartment. And this is at the time he was living over the factory upstairs over the offices. He was remodeling his home in Lake Helen, and he couldn't live there for the time being. And I'll never forget this. We go upstairs, and at the foot of the stairs, and he was a very intimidating guy. You had a difference. People saw different sides of him depending on you, I guess. He turns on me and he goes, what are you here for? And I said, well, I'm here to see if I can help sell more equipment for you. And he looked at me and he goes, if I didn't like you, I wouldn't be wasting my time talking to you this late at night. And I'm thinking, golly. So I didn't say a word. He said, I'm looking for loyal people. And I said, yes, sir, I understand that. You're looking for honesty, and I'm looking for loyalty. I said, well, I was raised to go hand in hand. And in my world, I'm pretty naive, I guess, but I understand that. He goes, all right, this is what I'll do. You start next Monday, and this is how I'll pay you, and this is when I'll pay you, and you start Monday. And then he tells me two things. Do me a favor, and I'll never forget this. This is great. Don't ever yes me, and don't ever second guess me. How point blank is that? You know where you stand.
Don't ever yes me as in like, don't be a yes man, or what does it mean?
Right. If I ask you a question, tell me the answer, the truth. Don't tell me what I want to hear.
Got it. I love that.
I love that. That's pretty clean.
Mm.
And the others don't second guess me, which is telling you that this is my company. I'm going to run it the way I want to. Well, I understand that. And, I had my gym going full time. I was making good money. Paid off the debt quick. I kept reinvesting. I started with 11 machines in my first year in my gym. And then I got up to 41 machines in one gym. And I helped another partner of mine at another gym with 30 machines. So I put my money where my mouth was. I took the risk early on. That I came from a different angle. So that started the relationship inside, and I didn't have a contract. It was a handshake. So I was with him from the time I met him till the time Arthur Jones passed away, 36 years. I was with him till the end. And I have no regrets. Made a lot of mistakes, but you learn from them. He made a lot of mistakes. In fact, that's a whole other story which we can get into later. But that's how I got into it, and then everything fell in place.
Can you tell me, I know you've spoken a little bit about your relationship with Arthur Jones, but I'm really interested, since you're probably the person who's been closest to him of any guest I've had on or anyone in the resistance training community. So can you kind of just elaborate on, I guess, more experiences you've had with Arthur, what you learned from him, anything that really stands out there?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, there were so many good people with him. Kim Wood, for example, you may know who Kim Wood, his brother Tom did the work of two people. Kim Wood had the Nautilus distributorship with Pete Brown, Paul Brown's son, the famous legend coach. Pete was the personnel director of the Cincinnati Bengals. Kim was down at Nautilus before I met Kim. When I showed up there, Kim was there. And Kim was a confidant, night and day. And Kim Wood ate, slept, breathed, dreamed Nautilus. We all did in our own way. And we had a relationship that we were young and we were mentored, but we wanted to please. We wanted to get the job done. We had a mission. We had passion, and we had excitement, and we had a product. And as I tell people today, I never got to coach kids in a sport, because I got out of college in December. I went to 2 summer schools. I was broke, married, and I had to survive. So my gym got me the ability, afforded me the ability with the risk factor to train people one-on-one, to help them get better conditions, stronger. All this was evolving. And then Arthur Jones gave me the chance to go worldwide. And I did that. I took the opportunity, and I was very blessed. And it also carries a curse with it too, which we'll talk later. I was blessed and cursed at the same time. But getting to know him, I was as close as you could get to him. I mean, he was a guarded individual. He kept a guard up at all times for a lot of reasons, I'm sure. But if you look back at his career, if he did half of what's printed out there in the literature about his accomplishments, I mean, it's almost overwhelming to comprehend what this guy accomplished in his life. And there was a loyalty thing there. There was respect, admiration, commitment. And I tell people today, young people, I realized I picked up on 3 key words in my life that I live by to succeed. And one is commitment. You got to have a commitment. If you don't, it ain't going to happen. Number 2, you better be prepared. You better know your topic. You better know your product. You better know your subject. And give an example. Along the way, after I got inside the company, Arthur sponsored for about a 11, 12-year period a series of high school coaching clinics for the athletic market, which was a great stroke of genius to be involved with a company called Medalist Industries out of Wisconsin. And they build all the gear, football gear, helmets, and all the things, athletic gear. And they had the varsity sports, football, basketball, baseball, track and field, wrestling, those 5 varsity sports. Now, this is in the 70s through the 80s, late 80s, 86, 87. And he put a lot of money in that thing. As a co-sponsor was a couple of companies. So there was 2 or 3 key sponsors. But Nautilus' name was in all the literature, all the clinics, on the signage. And we had access to having a booth there with equipment or literature or both. And we had a series of speakers that we were involved with for us. We had Dr. Fred Allman, who was at that time the sports medicine guy from Atlanta, Georgia, a dear friend, dear colleague. He's passed on. Of course, Arthur Jones, Don Shula, Dick Butkus, Dr. Ellington Darden, our PhD, who's written more books than anybody and one of the best ever. We had Dr. James Key, MD at the time. Later on, Dr. Mike Fulton. We had Captain James Peterson from West Point, who was involved with the West Point study. All these speakers were involved to cover these 50 coaching clinics a year. Oh, these are weekends now, so you're gone every weekend. And that penetrated the market quite a bit in the athletic community. So about 1977 or so, Arthur pulls me aside and says, look, here's a brochure in Dallas, Texas. It's a basketball clinic, and my picture's here. I'm supposed to be speaking, but I'm done. You go. And, of course, you had heart palpitations on that one because you're going to take his place, and who are you? Nobody knows who you are. You know, I'm selling equipment. So he says, get you a ticket and get to Dallas on Friday, and I speak on Saturday. And I looked at the schedule, and I bet, golly, the speaker before me was the legendary basketball coach out of Indiana, Bobby Knight, who I have the highest respect for. You would want your son to play for Bobby Knight. I don't care what the media says. This guy was tough, and he won a national championship the year before. He's speaking before me, but who knows who I am? And then the guy speaking after me was the UCLA coach, the Pyramid of Success coach, John Wooden, another legend basketball coach. And I'm in between both those guys.
Wow.
Oh, my gosh. Now, you talk about being thrown to the wolves' den. But, you know, the only way you're going to learn from it is go do it.
Definitely.
So I went and spoke at the clinic. And, of course, you just go, Jesus, maybe I got AFib or something. I don't know because, well, your heart's pounding. There's 1,500 coaches in the audience. And Arthur always told me, he said, when you go to you do a presentation, there's always one bad apple in every barrel. This is a lesson of life now. He's part of his teaching methodology. He said, you may get challenged. You may have a guy go at you a little bit. He says, if you can smooth that guy over during that presentation, the rest is a piece of cake. And sure enough, there was a guy that started kind of a challenge because at that time, very few basketball players worked out on weights. They were afraid of it. And there was all kinds of misinformation out there. And sure enough, one of the coaches started giving me a bit of a hard time, interrupted me. And so I had him stand up and I complimented him, but he looked like you still can play. It looks like you're in great shape. You know, I kept working the positive reinforcement to break him down a little bit. It worked. And everybody stayed in there. And at the end of the talk, and I knew what I was talking about. I gave, get in front of a group is your first time like that big is pretty intimidating. So I concluded my presentation, and if there's any questions, I'll be happy to meet outside the lobby in the hallway. And I had over 200 plus coaches come out of that group want to talk. So one thing led to another, and I kept trying to get better and better and better. And I took over that division, and he said, just run the whole thing. And we did that for the next 11 years. And I think I hit probably 15 to 20 coaching clinics myself during that school year, every year. So it was a great experience. So, but you're breaking those barriers down to accomplished the job number one, but you're getting to be around people and learn how to deal with them. And all it was, and I'd done that way back when, early on, when he would have me go with him to go to different trade shows and represent the booth and talk to people. So I got on the job training for free. I helped him out, and he helped me along the way, and I got the opportunity. So
I think this is a really important lesson because I'm hearing it a little bit in the kind of entrepreneurial space at the moment where, very successful entrepreneurs today are telling young people, go volunteer for your mentors for free, go work for free for 2, 3, 4 years because you'll be making a massive investment. And that's exactly what you did. You followed your passion and you were captivated by what Arthur Jones had to say, and you knew it was the right thing for you to invest in, and that paid off for you.
Going back to those 3 words I wrote down years ago, this has got to be, I tell these young people, commitment number 1, preparation number 2, and guess where the third one is, which we didn't get to yet. This is where we all mess up on. Focus. Focus. We all get sidetracked. We all see the greener pastures over here. It's in the gene code. You look for something bigger, and so that's what I learned to do over time with discipline, is just to stay focused on what I have to do. And my job was to sell equipment. I come from a sales background. I had the ability. I closed sales, and I tell these people today, the reality of it is this. And a dear friend of mine, he's a very, very successful insurance guy. And great quote. I won't mention his name, but he gave me a great quote. It's not the grade you make, it's a hand you shake. So from that standpoint, but grades are important. Don't fail. But you got to build relationships. And Arthur pointed that out years ago, even along the lectures at the coffee table or at the restaurant, at IHOP or McDonald's, where he liked to eat. He would brief you on things to teach you in the real world. He lived it. He'd been there, done it all. I mean, so number 1, commitment. Number 2, preparation. Number 3, focus. You put that in your wallet and look at it every Monday morning, you'll be successful. Those are just follow those 3 key words. So,
did you know that is great advice, and I can see now what Luke was saying about you being a fantastic storyteller. It's fascinating to hear about all these things. Did you ever have any really awkward moments with Arthur Jones? Any falling outs that were quite poignant for you that you could retell?
No, I never did. I'll share one story with you. I was always there for him. I kept my mouth shut. If you asked me a question, I give him an answer. That's how you dealt with him. And sometimes you don't want to hear it. And I'll share this with you. We were at a major medical meeting in the second company called MedX. I'll fast forward. This is back in the 90s. And as you know, I'm sure everything we deal with has politics in it, unfortunately. And that's the world we live in. That's reality. So there was a situation where another company was speaking, and the moderator, who's now deceased, was one of the leading spine surgeons in the world. He was all over the world. A great guy, Dr. Vert Mooney. What a special man he was. He put this course on in San Diego, and the brochure came out to us in April. The meeting's in, I think, August, maybe late July. I can't remember now. So it was in La Jolla, outside San Diego, at the beautiful Marriott Hotel, and we had the biggest exhibit with the medical technology. Other modalities and orthopedics were there as booths. And this one speaker, it was a comparison of his technology to MedX, but they weren't even related. And Arthur saw the brochure while we were doing one of our seminars at the University of Florida on a Friday, and he levitated on this one. What the heck? Who picked this topic? And Dr. Mooney did it because he knew how to play the political game. The guy was a master at that. And so the guy was speaking. He was a little fella, and he had been warned the night before that the big bad wolf may be in the audience. And Arthur was sitting in the back. And this is one of many examples. And if you've ever been to a medical meeting, there's a protocol that's very unique and very formal. and very respectful with the microphones in the aisle, and you raise your hand with the moderator, and they got the three people that spoke. They all have about 20 to 30 minutes, and you have a question answer. So it's a protocol. Well, this guy, when he gets up there, he goes, I didn't pick this topic. Dr. Mooney did. And he said, I like Med-X equipment, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm sitting in the back wall, and there's Arthur Jones. And all of a sudden, the guy finishes, and he rushes to the microphone, and he denounces this guy. I mean, just today, you can't do that. And I'm going, oh, brother. And he just basically verbally assaults a guy and just threatens to whip him right there. I mean, it was, and people, they never seen this kind of behavior. And he walks off, and a few people clapped, but not many. But now this guy now has a platform, and you could hear him inside. I'm outside the mezzanine, and Arthur pulls me over and says, "What'd you think about that?" I said, "Well, I don't know how many sales you lost, but I don't know." And he walked off. Never said another word about it, and he was upset. I could tell. And I didn't see Arthur Jones from the end of July till about the end of September. He stayed out in the West Coast, saw some of his buddies that were older, and we had a seminar in probably middle of September. So it's probably about 6 weeks since I even talked to him. And we had a Friday seminar in Gainesville through the University of Florida Medical School in the physiology lab with Dr. Pollack. And I bring about 35 people in, and I get their coffee and so forth. He sees me and calls me over to his room in the coffee room there. And he said, "What'd you think about what I did to that guy at that seminar back in San Diego?" I said, "Well, I already told you what I thought." He says, "I forgot. Tell me again." So, that's the way it was. But you're not going to change it. You give him advice. He may take it or he may not.
But what happened? So what happened after that? After he said, "Tell me again," I forgot. What did you say?
I said, "Well, I've already told you. Tell me again." I said, "Well, I told you that you tore into him, but you gave him a platform to be recognized as a victim. Because today's society, woe was me." And I said, "He's nobody. He was nobody. I mean, his product wasn't even close to ours." And that's all he said. And he asked me, and I told him again. But he's also checking me out to see if I repeat the same thing. Who knows? But that's you never know. But there were many a bus ride back from Gainesville back to Orlando, and we did a marketing program with the second company every other Friday. That's a whole other story. But these were the high end people in the area of orthopedics, exercise physiology, and rehabilitation. And they took time out of their schedule to come down to attend this one-day seminar with a mixer on Thursday night and a continental breakfast, a bus ride. It was done first class, a great luncheon at a private restaurant club in Gainesville, and a private dinner at a big steakhouse. We put the first class program together, and we accomplished a lot, exposing people to the new technology after Nautilus called Med-X, as you know.
Yeah, love Med-X.
Yes, sir. And you got great people over there in Europe. Mr. Kieser, who is a dear friend and colleague I've known for 40 plus years. And I'll say this real quick. I'm kind of shooting off the cuff here, but he's one of the few people who gets it. He gets it. And he and his wife, Gabby, who's an MD, they have the same passion, but they have the knowledge and they understand it, and they utilize those principles still today. And that's an interesting, comment, because they're still with it.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but I trained at the Med-X facility, the Kieser training facility in London when I lived in the UK. Sadly, it closed, and now I live in Ireland anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I know I've been tweeting with Werner a little bit to try and get him on the show. But he feels like everything has been said about high intensity training, and that not more is required at this point, is his opinion. So
it's there. And I agree with that. And I hope he gets on your show. He would be good to have. Now, where are you from originally? Are you from
Yeah, I'm from Portsmouth, which is south coast of England. I lived in London for almost 10 years for work, but yeah. So yeah, I miss that facility. Obviously I have a huge appreciation for MedX and Nautilus equipment, and more recently ARX as well.
I took Casey Viator with Ellington Dart. We took him over to the Mr. Universe contest in London in 1978. We trained him and took him there, and he didn't fare too well because of politics. Plus, he had a bad cold, but that was a great experience for my first trip to London, back in '78. So,
you've been back since?
One time. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in Germany, and I think I tabbed up. I think I was in 11 foreign countries in my career. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
So obviously you were, instrumental in helping grow Nautilus and helping found MedX as well. Can you give us, because we focus obviously a lot on Arthur Jones and the sort of Nautilus uprising, but can you tell us a little bit more about how MedX came to be and how that business evolved?
Well, yeah, but let me say this. There were a lot of people, not just me, a lot of people that were spokes in the wheel that made that wheel turn the right way. Good people that committed and did a good job for the company, and a lot of them are not around anymore, and a lot of them are not involved in the business. But if it wasn't for some of those people, we couldn't have done what we did. So we had a good bunch of people there. There were some that had different agendas. That works out the other way. But I compliment all of them. I'm blessed from that standpoint. It made my job a lot easier. And we had a good bunch of people that dug in. Having said that, now, Arthur Jones, very creative, always looking at a problem and looking for logical sources to basically solve those problems. He was very well read, as you know, and he's up there with the elite as far as his IQ, his work ethic. Of course, he was labeled by so many people, so many media people, but they didn't know him. They didn't know the man. And it's like Kim Wood and I, we spend a lot of time on the phone now. We spent 4 days together back about 8 years ago in Cincinnati and went through the whole process of our lives. We became very close, and we all agreed that each one of us had a different part of Arthur Jones in our life. Okay? Having said that, you deal with a genius, a very complicated individual, but he was real. He started... he did so much in the early 70s with the design. He had one of his nephews helping him. Of course, he borrowed money from his sister, who was a medical student her whole life, and came back from Africa, as you know the story, and it launched that from zero. It almost didn't make it. People like Nick Orlando, who's one of my best friends, he lives in Spain now, was his partner in Nautilus Northeast. Kim Wood was with Pete Brown in the Midwest. And each distributor they had skin in the game. They had to put money into it to have that territory right, and they did that. Some did a great job. Some hung on, did a halfway job. Some didn't do a good job. You go to war who you have. That's just part of life. But Arthur put money back into research and development, always trying to make it better, change it, make it better. He came out in the early 70s, about 74, 75, with a prototype knee testing machine. And you're probably familiar with several companies out there with the term isokinetic. Mm-hmm. All right. They were already in the market, penetrating the exercise physiology laboratories to conduct research, rehabilitation, physical therapy, and orthopedics. And he knew there was a problem there. He tried to solve the problem. And I remember I had an interesting lesson of life with a pro athlete that I did not solicit. He came to my gym. He was a professional baseball player, an American League batting champion. I won't mention any names. All right. We became good friends, and he was limping, came into my gym to wonder if I could help him. Well, I called Arthur Jones up in Lake Helen right away. I'm not going to touch this guy because he's a pro athlete. He's owned by somebody. All right. And he said, bring him up here. So I brought him up to meet Arthur Jones, and he tested both legs individually on his prototype knee testing machine, and told me what I should do with I had at the time I had the compound leg, the super, big compound leg press, leg extension combination, and then the leg extensions by itself. And I did exactly what I was told to do. And this in the next 5 to 6 weeks, we got his bad leg stronger. Well, we go back up for a post-test, and he had tested both legs previously on a pre-test. The bad leg got stronger, a lot stronger, and he was walking. But the good leg got weaker. What's that tell you? We learned a lesson right there. We didn't train the good leg. But in today's rehab, you go to rehab over here, they only work with the injury. They don't work with the good leg. And there's a thing called bilateral transfer now. We know about that. Can delay the atrophy or reduce it possibly, or help you get back quicker. So anyway, the baseball player was so excited that he had me come to the last spring training ball game in Orlando. Okay. And he said, bring your son. My son was 3. This is 1976. My son was 3 years old, little cotton top kid, you know. We're sitting right behind the dugout, the baseball game. At the end of the ball game, he wanted me to meet the athletic trainer. Sure. You know, and this guy was just a nice man. So I wait till everybody leaves, and here comes the trainer. The trainer had a verbal assault on me. Who do you think you are to touch our baseball player? Who do you think you are? Right in front of my 3-year-old son. And the baseball player was stunned. He was like shocked. And that was a learning lesson of life about territorial space of people invading their area. That was a lesson of life for me at that moment about people. Well, I held on as long as I could. Finally, I had enough, and I told the little guy, I said, you and I got a real problem. You about another few words out of your mouth, and you insult me in front of my little 3-year-old son, you and I are going to have a real problem. And I won't get into that right now, what I told him.
I can guess.
2 years later, I'm at the National Athletic Trainers Association meeting. 2 years later. And he comes up to the booth like we're long-lost buddies. So, but I learned a hard lesson about, you know, I was so passionate to help this guy, which we corresponded for years later, became good friends. And he actually played that year, and that was his last year, but it did help him. So, you know, you just never know about people. And those are lessons of life that you go through, and it's in your journey, as you know. I'm sure you've lived it too, and some things you've been involved in. So
nothing that compares to you, though, Jim.
I don't know about that, but we're all in our journey. But mine's about over. You guys are in yours. But I tell you what, it was a great run, and you know I have no regrets. I've met a lot of great people. I've shook a lot of hands. And I feel like I've helped a lot of people get to a better point in their life with some things. I still do. In fact, I guess you know, Luke and I do a little course. Did he tell you about that?
Yeah. Do you want to cover that now quickly? The Real Hit Experience.
Yeah. Just look up the realhitexperience.com, and then the course is the Real Hit Experience. And I got him in business kind of indirectly. I took a territory for the second company, MedX, after we sold out. Arthur retired. I took about 8 states, and Minnesota was one of them. So Luke was putting on a strength coaches clinic, and I went up to it as a vendor, sent him a check, and had a little space there. And then what I observed was several things that I hadn't seen at all. Number one, I saw the head football coach in the front row of a strength clinic. I've never seen in all my years the head football coach at any level sit in the front row to talk strength training for his football team. I was very impressed with that. But more importantly, I was impressed with Luke Carlson's organizational skills and his work ethic. It to me, it gave me a flashback to the past of when we were at that age. He was in his 20s. As was I when I met Arthur Jones. And they had the most organized program at the high school level I've ever seen. I've been in a lot of weight rooms all over the country at all levels, and it was so impressive. So for the next 2 or 3 years, I was a vendor, but I also got to speak at his clinic and participate. And we're having dinner one night before I flew back to Orlando, and I said, Luke, I'll put this on the table, not to change you or try to mess you up, but you've got a certain gift that a lot of people don't have, and I recognize it because I didn't know I had it. And you could take this business model, this school model, and take it to the business world and do very well. Or you can stay here and help these kids and have a great career with retirement if that's your choice. Well, I kind of planted a seed with him, and he called and came down and spent 3 days with me, and I put him in touch with some people and to mentor him, and look at him now. He's doing so well and so successful. So he came full circle to me, which I'm honored to invite me to participate in his 2-day course, which we started last year, and we're building that up slowly. And the next one is January 25th. And if you're interested in making your business better, this guy knows what he's doing. And I'll share this with you real quick, especially to the people who are in the business. I didn't know what I was doing in the gym business. I had no clue, but I never took a business course in my life. It was all trial by fire. So I had a guy named Hope James, who was a football coach, who came down to my gym in 1974. I've been open since November 1st, 73. He and his partner, who was a guy named Harry Bartlett, who's passed on, they put a gym together in Norfolk, Virginia. They had plush carpet, beautiful mirrors. They had 2 full circuits of Nautilus. It was beautiful. They said, you need to meet this guy, Raymond Long. Raymond Long is our guy. He was trained by the European health spa companies way back in the health spa days. He knows the business. You need to call him. He can help you. Well, most people, because of insecurity or fear, they're afraid to. I made the phone call. Come to find out, he's from Daytona Beach. We're the same age. He went into Navy out of high school, became a weightlifter, bodybuilder and boxer, and ended up being about 6'3", 235. I mean, good-looking guy. He was the number one sales guy in that program up there. I call him up. He goes, send me a check for $500, pay your way up here, and I'll have you for 4 days. I will teach you what I know. That's the best $500 I ever spent because I stepped out of the box to learn. All right. The problem today with a lot of these one-on-one people in the training business, they're married to the client. They can't get away from it. You got to break away. You got to learn. You got to go out and look around. How can you make your business better? Go to the next level. So you end up paralyzed. So I did that, and it was the best $500 I ever invested. And Raymond came full circle, came to me years later. He was going to open up a gym, but he didn't know what to do. Because of the capital investment. And I said, Raymond, you've got all the knowledge. You know how to run a business. Put a small gym. Be David. Don't be Goliath. Go back to your hometown and do a small gym. He did that for 15 years and sold it and is retired. See, so to me, that was you have to step out of the box a little bit and pick and choose and learn. And Luke does that too, So,
Yeah. Luke's had a massive impact on me, and he's been a mentor to me in a lot of ways. And we've obviously done business together with the Resistance Exercise Conference sponsorship, and he's just gave me great ideas and given me a lot of self-belief as well for this podcast, which has been awesome. So yeah, I see what you mean. Do you want to just repeat the website for the Real Hit Experience? What was that again?
The Real Hit Experience is that's it, and then of course the realhit.com, both of them. Back to
realhit.com. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. Good stuff. Jim, I've got to wrap up, but I would absolutely love to do a part 2 because there is so much uncharted territory that I'd love to talk to you about another time. And I'm only sorry we can't do that now.
Just let me know when. We'll do it again. And I'm honored to be here for you, Lawrence. I think what you're doing is great to keep the fires burning, keep the information out there. People need these vehicles because there's so much misinformation. That's a whole other topic to talk about some other time. But Like I said earlier, I was blessed and cursed at the same time because what I see today with what's going on in the athletic world, the fitness business, the cross-pollination of all this stuff coming from athletics and jumping off boxes, flipping tires, and throwing rocks, and I mean, there's so much misinformation, but it's keeping the orthopedic people in business.
I see. So I couldn't agree more. And so what you mean by the curse is that, in a way, ignorance was bliss. Now that you see so much error.
Well, I'll say this. I may not know a whole lot about a lot of things outside the business, but in this business, I know what not to do.
Well said. Okay, so for everyone listening, to find the show notes and links for this episode, the resources for this episode, and this will be number 104, and to find the same for all episodes, please go to corporatewarrior.org and you'll find a full list. And until next time, guys, thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Before you head off, head on over to corpwarrior.com, that's CORP warrior.com, to get your free high-intensity training Google Progress chart and ebook with 6 interview transcripts with some of my top guests, including Dr. Doug McGuff, Drew Bay, and Bill Simone, on how to optimize muscle gain, fat loss, and overall health in an efficient, effective, and sustainable way. These transcripts are deliberately not verbatim. Instead, they've been transcribed in an easy read format to make it more enjoyable and easier for you to quickly pick out what you need and start getting results. To get your ebook, head on over to corpwarrior.com, enter your email address, then check your email for an email from me with a confirmation link. Once you click the link, you will be instantly redirected to a PDF version of the transcripts. This podcast is brought to you by HitUni.com. HitUni.com are a provider of amazing online courses for high-intensity training qualifications. HitUni comes highly recommended by the best in the field, including Body by Science co-author Dr. Doug McGuff, Discover Strength CEO Luke Carlson, and trainer and founder of Bay.com, Drew Bay. It was founded by my friend, author, and longtime personal trainer Simon Shawcross, who's also been a guest on the podcast. Simon has 15 years experience training clients and has supervised over 15,000 high-intensity training workouts. Using knowledge from experts like Skylar Tanner, Dr. James Steele, Dr. Ellington Darden, HitUni is a goldmine for learning everything to do with high-intensity training. The courses are delivered online through the website, where you can learn via a variety of multimedia materials at your own pace. There's online support and a discussion forum where you can share ideas and ask for help. To learn more about high-intensity training and improve my own results, I started their personal trainer course. The content is amazing, the courses are really easy to follow, and each section is organized into bite-sized chunks that give you a real sense of achievement after you complete each one. I should also mention there is a DIY course, so this is the course for you if you're not necessarily a personal trainer, but you want to learn more about high-intensity training and how to implement it for maximum benefit in your own exercise regime. To get your exclusive Corporate Warrior 10% discount on any course you purchase, simply head on over to hituni.com, that's hituni.com, and enter the coupon code CW10, that's CW and the number 10. So again, head on over to hituni.com, pick your course, and enter the coupon code CW10 for 10% discount. Thank you for your support. This episode is brought to you by ARX, the most innovative, efficient, and effective all-in-one exercise machines I've ever seen. I was really impressed with my ARX workout. The intensity and adaptive resistance was unlike anything I've ever experienced. I love how the machine enables you to increase the negative load to fatigue target muscles more quickly, and I love how the workouts are effortlessly quantified. The software tracks maximum force output, rate of work, total amount of work done, and more in front of you on screen, allowing you to compete with your previous performance to give you and your clients real-time motivation. The ARX uses a computer-controlled motor to give you the exact amount of resistance your clients need 100% of the time. This means that the resistance can never become dangerous, is intuitive and simple to use, and can provide you with all the results you and your clients are looking for in a fraction of the time. ARX is highly effective and efficient in delivering all of the benefits of exercise, including increased strength, muscle mass, cardiovascular conditioning, bone mineral density, and injury recovery. As well as being utilized by many high-intensity training trainers to deliver highly effective and efficient workouts to their clients, ARX comes highly recommended by world-class trainers and brands, including Bulletproof, Tony Robbins, and Ben Greenfield Fitness. To find out more about ARX and how you can get $1,000 off software licensing when you place an order, that's right guys, $1,000 off, please go to arxfit.com and mention Corporate Warrior in the How Did You Hear About Us field. So again, to get $1,000 off software licensing when you order, head on over to arxfit.com and enter Corporate Warrior in the How Did You Hear About Us field.